in the 1920s. Of course, the circuit was finally closed in for their annual sprint, and they've had a lot of help from the London Borough of Bromley. This year, the sprint attracted some terrific entries, from the very latest Lotus Elise to little Fiat Abarth. There was Jaguar E-types and a number of single-seater racing cars as well, not forgetting this wonderful Allard J2. There were plenty of Formula Fords, and the whole entry, of course, split into a number of different categories, with everyone trying for fastest time of the day. That was expected to be in the sort of 35, 36 second mark. This circuit, this sprint circuit, actually utilises part of the very original circuit and the circuit that was used after the war, the actual North Tower corner, a famous section. Amongst the competitors, people like Jerry Marshall, who actually won the very last race at Crystal Palace for historic cars. Some superb machinery on display, and even the old Crystal Palace badge. The great thing about this circuit was that it was so close to London. It was literally just a bus ride away from central London. And the man who's put it back on the motor racing map, Neil Brooks-Johnson.
Neil, you're the event director today. This is very much a revival, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the third event that we've run here. The first event was put together to celebrate 25 years of the park closing down in 1972, when it just got too dangerous to race around the track here.
Was it difficult to get the permission to use the track again?
Well, that's an interesting question, because we thought it was going to be tremendously difficult, but in fact what happened was we contacted the London Borough of Bromley, who own the park here, and they couldn't have been more helpful. So we've been very pleased and very lucky that the council have been so good to us.
Explain a little bit about the event today. What sort of classes, what sort of cars have you got driving?
Well, we're not actually running a full motor racing, because we can't do that around the park anymore, but what we're doing is running part of the pre-war circuit and part of the post-war circuit as a sprint, and running cars mainly from the Crystal Palace period, which is from the 1920s right up way up to 1972. So anything from sort of an old Bugatti right the way up to modern rally cars, in fact.
And the track actually started off back in the 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about the history of it.
Right, well, the history of the circuit was that back in the 20s, as you were saying, a couple of guys got together and thought it'd be fun to run a motorcycle race around here. They then started off and ran speedway events in an area which is now occupied by the athletics track, almost exactly on top of it. Because speedway was a bit boring, just going all the way around corners, they developed it into running through cycle paths, and it wasn't actually open until 1937 as a much longer circuit. Then of course the war came along and the park fell into disrepair, and it was opened again in 1951 just as a 1.3 mile circuit. Of which we sadly can use but a part of it, because there are speed bumps and things like that, and speed bumps and motor racing don't go together.
No, absolutely right, but we congratulate Neil on really working so hard with this initiative and getting Crystal Palace back with racing engines roaring around at least a part of it. And this first man that we see, 155 Martin Ellis in his Lotus Sunbeam. Obviously a car he drives on the road every day, but having a pretty good day. Next up, Andrew Cannings in his fearsome Mini, which has an engine in the front and another engine in the back. Not the first man to do this. Somebody raced one of these at places like Mallory Park back in the early 70s. I'm dragging the back of my mind to try and remember the name of the guy. Rod Embley, I think it was. But anyway, that's a fine machine, 154. This is David Jacobs in his Metro 6R4, certainly looking for a quick time in this machine. Each competitor having 2 practice runs and then 2 timed runs, and then normal sprint fashion, the best run actually counting for the result. Well, here's this Lotus Elise with the interesting number plate, Slewley. A lot of people tending to use these cars in competition these days. 160, Chris Garwood in the Elise. Close up on the wheel and sprinting away, the Fiat X19 of John Williams. Not a car that's been used that much in competition, the X19, and this one maybe not used again. A crumpled front wing as John Williams loses it, just trying that bit too hard.